Hey George, how you doing, buddy? Huh? How's it going? Yeah? You want to let everybody know they're watching the Urban Gardener channel? Yeah? Huh, George? Can you say, hey bud, can you say let's get growing? Huh? Can you say let's get growing? All right, welcome gardeners to Let's Get Growing, your weekly gardening livecast here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch and I'm your host for today's show. And we've got a really great conversation coming up here in just a little bit on the show. Our featured guest is Jamiah Hargins, and Jamiah is the founder of an organization down in Los Angeles called CropSwapLA, and he's been doing some really, really cool things around the city with micro farms, recycling water systems, all sorts of stuff that I want to get in and talk to him about. I'm really excited about that conversation coming up here just a little bit in the show, so be sure to keep tuned in for that conversation. Now, if you are here with us live and joining in with the show, be sure to ask a question there and leave a comment in the chat box so that we can get to some of your questions and all of that during the show, especially if you got any questions for our upcoming guest during our interview. It'd be great for you to jump in, ask a question. We'll ask our guest that question as well too. And again, if you are here, be sure to give this show a big thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, to keep following along with us here on the Urban Gardener channel. And be sure to share our show and our channel with all of your garden friends out there. Let them know that we've got these really great, cool guests each week on our show. We have these awesome gardening conversations, introducing everybody to some really cool gardeners. And actually, a lot of them really, a lot of people probably already know too. And just really fun for me to be able to have a conversation with some of these really great guests that we've had in the past. So also go check out our website at letsgetgrowing.live. There's a page there with past shows. You can go check out all of the different guests that we've had over the last I don't know, dozen weeks or so, and check out some of those conversations if you haven't had an opportunity to already. And also want to support the Let's Get Growing show. The best way to do that is to support our sponsor, IV Organics, really great family company with a couple of really awesome products and some live plants and different things that you can purchase through their website at ivorganics.com. So be sure to go check out that store there, buy some of their fertilizer. It's really great. We're using it in the garden this year. Everything's looking really awesome. So a really great rounded out fertilizer that they have there at ivorganics.com, and use our grow code or our promo code GROW10, GROW10, so that you can save 10% off of that. And they also have this really great 3-in-1 plant guard. It's kind of a plant protectant, and really a great product. So go check that out there at ivorganics.com. All right. So here we are. It's another week here on Let's Get Growing. I was just out actually right before the show, kind of wandering around, checking out all the different things in the garden, seeing if there's some things I need to get to a little bit later. picked some fresh roses right out of the garden. We've got several really awesome varieties of roses. I think I've got, if I got it, six, six different, six different plants. There were, I think there were three different varieties when I first moved here to this place over 10 years ago. And there were three varieties of roses. One of them didn't grow very well and was kind of really raggedy. And so I ended up taking that one out and adding four other varieties of roses around the place so that, I love I love these plants. I love the different varieties that they have, and they're just really awesome to see in the garden each year. Now, when I first started gardening and growing plants outside, I was really kind of hooked on the idea of growing my own food. And so I was really kind of researching and learning all these different gardening skills when it came to that. So for several years, while I was gardening and learning to grow everything from carrots to beans and tomatoes, peppers, everything, I was just really enjoying all of that, but I was ignoring the idea of growing flowers and adding those to the gardens. And as I really started expanding a little bit more into some of our alleyway spaces, I just knew that I was going to want to add some color to what's going on in those spaces just to kind of brighten that up a little bit more because it is more of a public garden. So I was thinking, let's make it look really nice for people who are wandering by. And that's when I really started really thinking about the different varieties of flowers and the different things that we could plant. We've got everything out there now, daffodils, tulips, uh, um, all sorts of really great gladiolas, irises, all sorts of different flowers that we have there out in the garden spaces, but all just kind of inspired by wanting it to look nice. But then I started really realizing the benefits of what this was uh, doing for the garden. The more flowers I was adding into my garden space, it seemed like the more alive my garden was because I was really attracting all of these pollinators into my garden spaces. So they were not just finding these flowers that I put out for them, but they were also finding the smaller flowers that were on all of our fruit bearing plants. And really I started seeing just a little bit better production, and my, like I said, my garden just became a lot more alive as I added flowers into the garden space. So not only do they look just really awesome, really nice, and can make some really cool bouquets for around the house or to give as gifts and all of that. If you're growing, we got plenty of different ones, and I give away a lot of different flowers. But yeah, not only do they look really nice, but they also are a really great way for improving the output of your garden. You'll get better harvests because you're attracting all of these great pollinators into your garden by having different varieties of flowers all around. So I find a way each and every year to incorporate just a few more flowers into my garden spaces in order to you know, not again, like I said, not only make it look nice, but to make sure that I'm also attracting all the really cool bees and things into the garden space. So be sure to add flowers to your garden as well too. So yeah, everything else is looking really nice out there. It's that time of year. We put a lot of work into growing a lot of plants from seed and getting those plants all mature. It's been kind of the project over the last few weeks is to get a lot of our plants that we were growing indoors under the lights and started from seed. A lot of our pepper varieties, tomato varieties. I got some eggplants and different and different things that were growing out in the garden spaces. We're bringing those outside, hardening them off. We've been doing that for the last few weeks now, and we pretty much got everything out into the garden space, and we've got most everything planted out. There are only a few lingering things that we want to add to the garden space here over the next week or two. I'm letting some corn stalks grow up before I add in some beans, so there's a few different things still left to do, but for the most part, most of all of our different varieties are all planted out into the garden space. And again, I will have a video coming up here real soon here, a garden journal video that will really kind of go over all of that sort of stuff that we've been up to over the last couple of weeks. I've had a bit of a computer technical issue over the last week, and so I haven't been able to get a couple of the videos I've filmed and want to get published out yet. So that'll be happening real soon, and we'll go over all of those sort of tomato varieties and different things that we've planted out in the different spaces. And then I think upcoming here, as we're getting started with the summer season, we'll do an end of spring kind of garden tour. And I'll take you around, and we'll put out a couple of videos where I'll just show you everything that's growing out in our garden spaces, as well as I do have a video too on our micro farm over at our friend Mike's place. Everything's just growing along really nicely over there. We've also been finishing up with getting things planted out there as well too. So we'll have all of those updates and all of those videos coming out here real soon on the Urban Gardener channel. And you can see all the things that we've got growing in our gardens. So yeah, really, really excited about all the things that we've got growing this year, even though we kind of had a little bit of a late start to everything. It ended up being a pretty good, overall garden. I can't, I'm pretty excited about everything that's growing and how it's looking right now too. I mean, there's a couple of things that are just kind of beyond my control, which I think, would make the spaces look a lot better. We've got a couple of fence issues when it comes to the overall spaces. One of the fences being my neighbor's. In our front of our alleyway space there, his fence is just leaning over and falling apart, and I'm just not sure if and when he's going to plan on getting that fixed up. It's nothing where I can really do about it. I can't really get in there and fix the fence for him and all that, even though I've kind of offered to help him out with it. But yeah, so it's not looking so good with the fence leaning over, but we've got everything planted out. Things are growing in really nicely in the spaces overall. We also have a project that I'm working on too that's going to kind of maybe improve the look of the area when it comes down to it. But as these plants get growing, start filling up the space, I'm sure that we'll be all right with all of that. We do have another fence in the very back of our alleyway that is all broken down. That one fell apart in a windstorm a couple of months back. And so we've got to pull out and dig out the old cement blocks and reset some new posts and get that whole area back there fixed up as far as the fence goes before we can do any planting. So I haven't done any of my normal planting along the very back alleyway and the back corner space that we have where we usually grow some like squashes and some things like that. We're just not able to use that space right now until we can get the fences fixed up. But hopefully that's something that'll get done here pretty soon, and we won't have to worry about having to have our space. For one, that it looks awful, this fence that's just leaning over and just basically looks like the next gust of wind's going to knock it right over. But and then to have the back alleyway all opened up and and the fence all broken down. But yeah, we'll get that all fixed up there, and we'll be using those spaces again here pretty soon. But yeah, that's kind of a lot of the things that we've got growing on in our garden spaces right now. So many things finally finished up, and we can kind of enjoy watching some of these things grow now versus having to, go through the whole process of all the maintenance of, bringing each of these plants up from seed and then getting them out into the garden space. It's a little bit of work, but really kind of, one of the real joys of gardening when it comes down to it, is to be able to work through that whole process, and that's one of the things I love the most about gardening and growing things is starting something from a little tiny seed and then getting this really cool harvest at the end of that plant's life. And it's just a really awesome um, experience. And I enjoy it every single year, even more every year. So, that's kind of exactly what this is all about here, on the Urban Gardener channel and this Let's Get Growing show. It's a bunch of us gardeners with really, you know, strong passions for growing and gardening, the whole gardening experience. So be sure to continue to follow along with us. Jump into the comment section there. Let me know that you're here too. And let me know what you've got growing on. What do you got going on in your garden? Um, I'd love to hear about the different things that you have growing on. And pretty soon here on the show, we'll have our guest with us. But for right now, we are going to check out what we've got growing on in the garden. So, all right, gardeners, we are in the garden this week talking about growing in containers. Now, containers are a great way to maximize any garden space, but especially for those of you who are growing in smaller spaces, containers are practically necessary. Now, there are all sorts of different containers that you can grow in your garden spaces. Got this one here, big, large ceramic pot, growing this tree in here. Got this big, large nursery pot here. We have this other tree growing in. I'm growing blueberries in big, large storage containers. We're also growing out of these big, large 45-gallon felt pots. And there are smaller felt pots as well. I've even repurposed a small little barbecue, and we're growing strawberries out of that. There's all sorts of things that you can use for containers. We use a lot of these 5-gallon water wicking containers in our garden spaces here. You see a bunch of peppers there. We're even growing some cabbage, some Brussels sprouts. We've got some onions growing here. We grow all sorts of things in these 5-gallon containers. I'll show you how we put those together here in a moment. But one of the things you really want to think about too is drainage and making sure that your good soil is able to drain out properly from the bottom of your container, or in this case, they're drinking the water up into the root systems for these sort of containers there. But you want to make sure that if you're just getting a regular standalone container or you're repurposing something, you want to make sure that it drains really well. And you want to make sure, again, that you're keeping all of your plants nice and watered well, because that's going to be important to keeping good plants in containers, is not letting them dry out, which makes these containers just really great for that as well too, because we want to make sure that we're not damaging any of our roots and any of our plants. So we want to make sure that our containers are not drying out. One of the other things you can think about as well too in a patio space or any other type of garden space is setting up some automatic drip systems so that you can have drip brought to each of your containers as well, in order to ensure that they're not going to be drying out, and you'll have some really great plants to harvest later. Another thing I recommend when thinking about containers for different things you're growing in your garden is thinking about what color they are. We've got those dark nursery pots, the black ones, and those can really absorb a lot of heat in the sun. And that's one of the things we want to think about, is trying to reflect some of that sunlight and some of that heat. So some of those plants that we've got that are going to be in real full sun, we're going to want to make sure that we are utilizing a kind of a white or a really light color in order to reflect that sunlight. This one here, we've actually painted that the white color, so that's one thing you want to think about, is making sure that those ones that are going to be in the sun aren't going to get too hot and therefore really just cook and dry up really too fast. So let me go over real quick how we put these 5-gallon water wicking bucket systems together. It's really easy, and in fact, you know, it's really inexpensive too. So I challenge you to go price out all these sort of different containers that you could be using in your garden centers, ones that are about 5 gallons worth of root space in them, and see if you can't buy one of those containers for around $1 or less. I'll bet you can't. That's that's one of the things that makes these water wicking systems really, really awesome, and again, really simple as well too. It's just basically 2 buckets. We got 2 buckets, one on the bottom, one that goes in on the top there. The bottom one is basically your reservoir bucket, and it's going to have, the only thing that you need to do to it is put in these 2 holes that I've put on each side, about 3 inches up, so that the water doesn't overflow the bucket and saturate the soil in the top bucket where your plant is going to be growing out of. And again, top bucket, really simple. We've got a 3-inch hole on the bottom. That's going to be probably the priciest thing of the whole project, and if you can find someone who has a hole drill bit that you can get that does 3 inches, you'll be even better. But if you have to purchase one, it's probably about the most spendiest thing. But if you're building several of them, it can be well worth the buy. And you get these net pots here that go into the 3-inch hole that you're going to drill out. We also have a 1-inch hole where our PVC pipe fits through the top bucket, which goes into the bottom bucket to fill it up with water. You can see we've got a little notch that we've cut out of that so it doesn't sit flush against the bottom. We can flow some water into our reservoir bucket. And then we've drilled some regular holes also as well for roots to also be able to stretch out and reach for some of that water in the reservoir bucket. But again, real simple, real inexpensive. The price just goes down more and more the more you're able to resource some of this stuff other than being able to buy it. You can get 5-gallon buckets. They're on sale at a lot of different big box stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, places like that. You know, anywhere from $3 to $6 or so for each bucket. But you can get these for free. Go to your restaurants, bakeries, some grocery stores. They also have bakeries that are going through all sorts of these buckets and are just kind of tossing them out anyways. So I'm sure you can get some of them to set some aside for you. I mean, it's how we've resourced all of the 5-gallon containers that we use here in our gardens, is right free from a local business. And I'm sure you can find one as well too, which again can make these things even less and less expensive each, in in order to build, and they're just really great. One of the last things I want to say is once you've chosen a container that you're going to use in your garden, you now want to think about having a really good, well-draining soil, and that you are fertilizing your plant in that container maybe just a little bit more than what you would fertilize in your regular garden, especially if you're using a regular container where the plants are draining from the bottom. That can leach out a lot of nutrients, so you're going to want to replace those nutrients just a little bit sooner than what you would in an in-ground garden space. So you want to feed just a little bit more with a container. That's one of the things that also makes these 5-gallon wicking containers even better. They basically feed the water up into the soil system and the root ball, and so they're not necessarily leaching all of the nutrients as much as a regular container would. All in all, containers are a great way to expand your garden space. Again, like I said, whether you've got a regular garden and you've got lots of in-ground space and lots of garden space, there's always some places where you can fit some containers and grow in some containers as well. And again, really important for those who are growing in small spaces. So hope you go find some really good containers for your garden and expand your garden spaces, and tell me all about it. I'd love to hear about all of your container gardens that you grow in. Right down in the description below. And thank you again for joining me here in the garden this week. We'll see you all on our next video. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right, back to the show. Great to have all of you along with me here for the Let's Get Growing show. And again, please give this video a big thumbs up there and hit that subscribe button. And one of the things that I haven't done, I think, over the last week or two is talk about our question of the week. We didn't get that started up this last week like I wanted to. So we'll get it started this week, and we'll go over all of your answers to our question of the week this next week. So one of the things that we've got going on in the garden, and I'm sure in most everybody's garden, it's one of the most popular things that we grow in our gardens each and every year, and that is tomatoes. So I want to know, what are your favorite tomato varieties? So be sure to join with us this next week, and also join with us on our Urban Gardener Let's Get Growing Facebook group and our growing and gardening community. And if you join with us in our group there, you can see a post that we'll post up each and every week with our question of the week, and you can have a chance to answer the question. We'll feature some of your answers on next week's show. And also, you can join with us and share some of your answers right live on the show as well too. And yeah, so what is your favorite tomato variety? I've got so many. I grow tons of them. And we try new varieties every year. So I'm really interested in seeing what your favorite tomato varieties are. And yeah, and then we'll talk about some of mine on this next week's show. And I think it's about time for us to catch up with this week's featured guest. This week's featured guest is Jamiah Hargins. Jamiah is a chronic social entrepreneur, community leader, and self proclaimed garden engineer. He is the founder of CropSwapLA, which is determined to grow food on unused spaces, creating green jobs, independent economies, and nutrient dense food. With a team of 21 urban farmers and administrators, they have installed and managed 3 water recycling front yard micro farms that use just 8% of the water previously used for grass to grow and collect fruit and vegetables for 70 families. His innovative business and design models gained the attention of LA city officials looking for sustainability solutions around water, food, and economic sustainability. And he was named a Good Food Champion in 2019 and launched a clothing and mural partnership with Adidas as a Black Excellence honoree in 2022. Jemiah began his career as a stock and equity options trader, an education headhunter, and a nonprofit program leader. Jemiah is graduate of the African American Board Leadership Institute, the University of Chicago, the Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs, and the University of Chicago. Personally, he is the father of 5-year-old girl and a 5-month-old infant girl, and husband to school administrator and a practicing Taoist. All right, let's welcome Jemiah to our program. Hey, there he is.
Hi,
It's so
how are
good
you?
to see you, man.
You too. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Awesome for you to be able to be with us here. We did want to get you in for our last season, but lucky for you, you welcomed a new member to your family, right?
That's right. Yes. Zia, my second daughter, she arrived in late last year. And really, when I first met you, you might remember I told you that I started this because my first daughter was born and I
Yes.
wanted the right food. But
Yeah.
now, 5 years into it, I actually have the infrastructure, the team, the real estate that's secured to actually have food available when she was born. And that to
Yeah.
me felt like a really satisfying moment as a father, to have that reliance, not only for food but also for water, as we'll get to.
Yeah, absolutely. So awesome. Yeah, so congratulations on the new member of your family.
Thank
And yeah, um, again, too, I'll just, mention that how I found out about you years ago. Originally, I knew a couple of guys, they were brothers, and they started a gardening app called CropSwap.
right.
And it was an app, and it was all about connecting different gardeners with each other in their neighborhoods so that they could possibly swap different things that they grow. And really really cool thing, I met them at a national heirloom exposition, and I was looking to maybe go do a video and go talk with them a little bit more about this app. So I was looking into it, and this was probably a year or two after I met him first. But so I went to go looking up, like what's going on with this, seeing how it was going. And when I was looking up crop swap, I kept finding you and this CropSwapLA. And at the time, I come to find out the CropSwap app wasn't in production anymore. But luckily through that process, I found what you were doing, and I found that to be even just an even better situation when it came down to it, because I've been so fascinated with the work that you do down in Los Angeles, and we kind of touched on a little bit of that there in your bio, and we'll talk a little bit about some
Thank
of
you.
those projects and everything.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
yeah, it was just really kind of a serendipitous type of situation that I come across and find what you're doing, and probably one of my favorite things that I've seen in the sort of stuff that that interest me, and that I kind of look into when I'm checking out little projects for myself. and the videos that we make for our channel here. So
Appreciate
it was really great. But
it.
anyways, let's just kind of take a step back again here and just kind of
Yeah.
introduce you to everybody. You want to tell everybody a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, and thanks for the intro earlier too, and I appreciate what you just shared too. You know, I did begin, my career as a stockbroker, but even before that, I was raised as an Air Force brat, and
Okay.
when you're raised on Air Force bases, for those who've never been on an Air Force base, you may not even have even thought what that's like. And for those of us who were raised on it, we're so conditioned for it that we might not really realize, um, you know, oh, I think you're still here, right?
Yep.
Okay, smooth. I'm gonna switch the screen. Sorry, I don't know how to do that. Um, to where I can see you. Oh, sorry, you're doing it live. I apologize.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
I'm catching up to your
Didn't mean
technology.
to throw you off. Sorry.
You're too smooth. But being raised on Air Force bases, the thing is, everything is provided for you, and everything is systematized as a society. So you'll always have food, you'll always have water, there'll always be clothing within a price range and a decor that will match your other peers. There'll always be entertainment for kids and family that's appropriate, and then norms between neighbors. So there'll never be racist things put on people's doors. There'll never be things like that as overtly, but it'll still happen at the workplace where my father told me, and I've heard many examples of that. But it's a lot less likely in the residential because people's families are there and they're all kind of intermixing at schools, and there's various hierarchies that people adhere to. So it's almost like off limits, at least from my perspective. But at least from the perspective of resources and emergency preparedness, that's where I gained a lot of value and still retain that expectation in a neighborhood setting. So when we did figure out at CropSwapLA, we evolved numerous times from different forms, and eventually figured out a system to grow food continuously, and for the neighborhood relying upon itself. It began kind of, as a crop swapping, get together, very tactile, very, huggy. Everyone smells on each other, and it's just like love. And finally we have someone to hug because we all been missing that. Then COVID happened, and that slowed down a little bit. But we opened a farmers market briefly called the West Adams Farmers Market. That was fulfilling and useful for getting out the word of what we'd been doing with the crop swaps. And yeah, we crossed paths with the app, and then we continue with what we were doing because our intention was to increase the food supply. Because I believe once we have more of the food, we can do more with it in all of these other ways. Already, just the visible aspect of it has created numerous documentaries and imagery of people who have been inspired by it and use that for their own art. People have sent me like paintings and dance. Someone created a video game about CropSwap, and just it's really incredible how it's spurred that emotion just in seeing it. And then the distribution is another element. We're very, so I'll get to those details, but just to say that at that point through COVID, people started thinking of us as kind of a food channel. So farms that were, you know, giving their extra, they needed places to distribute it to. So they brought it to me, and I knew some people and got my word out, my face up there just for being there, and also kind of secured my family's food security as we were going through transitions with a risky rental home we had. Um, so so that goodness and goodwill kind of channeled through us and secured our home, um, and then it secured us those around me. So some volunteers, all the families, some of those relationships, in fact, come come in handy as recently as this week or last month when we needed someone, and she was someone I met through that phase. So it's just remarkable. And once I noticed that the universe operated that way, I started kind of expecting it to. And that meant trusting partnerships, or being trusting myself first of all, in understanding what was needed in the universe. Oh, and by the way, if you see my hand, I know I'm gesticulating. I'm okay. I just I bent it the wrong way, so I just got to buddy wrap it for a while. Just
Oh yeah.
no,
Oh
don't.
my.
My mom's watching this. She's like, "What happened, baby?" um,
uh,
but you know,
everything's all right though.
yeah, I'm fine. Thanks. um, but so then that community element from my upbringing on base was the same way. Like I had extra food. Of course, you could have some. Um, and so that then evolved after the farmers market was shut down for the COVID effect. We then won a contest brief contest for $50,000 to basically create front yard gardens, and that's all I thought was going to happen. I thought that
Yeah.
was the cutest idea. I thought that would solve all the problems and like make a romantic scene, but truly it's more that it created a new land resource, an
Yeah.
entire new model. And I've been inspired by some groups in Florida, like Fleet Farming, who've been doing this on a volunteer basis. But it's different in LA because I needed to find a way to monetize it for the LA context. It's a very expensive city to live in. I also had to
Yeah.
figure out a way to do it with water economy in a place
Mhm.
that has in a place that has droughts. So, and worsening droughts and all of these factors tied into one. I thought, you know, it would be challenging, but at $50,000, we actually had enough to experiment. So I partnered with Enviroscape LA, one of my mentors. Uh, Mike Garcia experimented with his landscaping and water and pond work, and then I added some agricultural insight, and then likely we found a way to basically irrigate upward and let it drain back down into a reservoir. So
Yeah.
that same kind of model. We now have three micro farms. Each of them are different arrangements. So like the first arrangement, the homeowner gets a share of the food, and we were going to pay them a share of the profits, but when we transitioned from a nonprofit, when we transitioned from an LLC to a nonprofit, we needed to shift that and not offer profit share. But that
Right.
is still a viable business model for a company. It's just that we're a nonprofit and we're doing it this way.
Yeah.
Um, and the water reservoirs are what really intrigue a lot of people now. I don't know if you want to talk about it now. I'll show
Yeah.
you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to that real quick there. I just want to actually kind of, the again, I encourage people. I did put a link down below for everybody to check out a video I did, so you can get a real good idea of what he was talking about when it comes to the first farm, Asante Farm, which I got to go and visit you at, which again I think is really just an ingenious idea of how you came up with solutions to some of those problems that you talked about. Real quick though, I want to kind of get into kind of the inspiration for a lot of this stuff. Do you have a real gardening background? Is this something that you mentioned growing up, army brat, jumping bases, were gardening or anything like that something that you were able to participate with growing up, or is this something that you were inspired with later on?
Right. I think nature I was always fascinated with. Wherever I was, I'd be in the snow in Germany or I'd be playing in fields in New Mexico. Always fascinated with the insects and the animals and how the plants interacted with them. And then as an
Yeah.
adult, I was fascinated in, I think they call it anthropological studies, which is, or something like that, where they blend plants and how humans interact with them. And that was always
Yeah.
fascinating in ancient studies for me.
Yeah.
And so, that's certainly how it is. And then more recently, how plants are interacting with movements, and how some of the most fascinating and most resistant movements against like colonization and things like that were because they had their own food resource. And that
Yeah.
was always a consistent theme. Or they innovated somehow, stored it really well in the forest or something like that. So all of that is just like, wow, there's a lot of power behind this, not only intellectually, but my curiosity and how plants work. So
Yeah.
I'm building a laboratory here that will have, microscope and some other tools to examine the nutrient density of the foods. The
Yeah.
nutrient density will compare against our you know options, right? Our food's already half of what it costs at Whole Foods, and
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see how much more healthy it is too.
Yeah, yeah. So somewhere along the way, and I tried to do this word you got here in your bio. I'm going to try it again here. Guard engineer. That's a tough one.
Garden
Guard
engineer,
guard
garden,
engineer.
garden engineer. I know we all have to
I
work
tried
on
it. I knew it, and I was reading it beforehand. I'm like, I hope I don't stumble over that word because it's a great word. Guard engineer. Guard
that.
engineer. So, so somewhere along the way, with all of the things that you were learning, you decided that you want to be a guard engineer and put something that's just put something together, which I think again we'll get to this, and maybe you can talk a little bit on this as well too, is developing solutions similar to what you were saying before to situations in a city to which you live in. One of, I think, a part of your mission is to make sure that you're developing farms in places where they're needed the most, places we call food deserts, that sort of situation. And of course, not just food desert and the fact that they're lacking food and it's hard to find around the area, but you're also in an area where you're dealing with droughts and you're having to come up with situations that make it more, you know I don't know, easier to grow and to grow in a productive way, through, I mean, what I saw, what you did there at the Asante micro farm is just really, like I said, the way that works and all of that. So maybe we'll just talk a little bit more about that mission and where that those solutions came about.
Thanks. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, right when we were starting the Asante Micro Farm, there was a grocery store that shut down just down the street. And the reasoning was because of not wanting to pay the employees a little extra during COVID. So I just realized, this is an essential need, not
Yeah.
just for us to exhibit, and show off, but also to live and act out and show that it can work. So
Mhm.
people need to be paid livable wages to run it, so that it actually is consistently running and growing food. Um, the organization needs to be sound and fully enabled to be publicly facing, and that costs money and time and administration, and all of that is the reality of what we're showing out here. And so right now, I'm happy to announce that we're opening the first endowment for urban farming, and our
Oh,
endowment for urban farming is an $80 million goal that will endow our movement. On our current scale and operation, with some responsible investments through an investment firm. It's the same movement that universities do, and that's kind of how they get donations to run their operations. That's what we're kind of turning on its head here for the people in the community.
yeah. Yeah, again, in places that where it's just really, really necessary in a sense, like we're saying that these sort of you know nutrition and fresh food and that sort of stuff aren't quite widely available.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and it's worsening because as the citrus crisis worsens, I was just in Belize last week, and I saw
Yeah.
the citrus fields just decimated. So that's a precarious system for us
Hmm.
to rely on, and that's for those of us that are even paying attention or care. And
Yeah.
so, those of us who are active are still concerned about environmental factors that we can't avoid. So
Yeah.
we have to be proactive to at least be on the front end of having the systems in place. And that's what I'll show you here at the Degnan Micro Farm. This is our headquarters. When we get walking around a little bit, it's about systems and making sure that it's built in, that, larger commercial buildings are considering this as installations as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, it's worth seeing.
Yeah, and my channel's called The Urban Gardener. It's about city gardening. We do a lot of small space gardening, growing in yards and just being kind of a little more visual in how we see the spaces that we have around us to be able to accommodate gardens and growing food. And so when I see the sort of thing that you're doing, especially when I got to go visit you there at Asante Micro Farm, and all of these things are just growing and growing so vibrantly. And like you're talking about, having the people there to be able to manage and do that sort of stuff and take care of these things. And then also the thing that I thought was the best part of the whole thing was kind of what you were talking about, is the idea of it being kind of sustainable and people buying and purchasing
Yeah,
from this farm. And
yeah,
that was the one thing that I found to be not necessarily the most surprising, but one of those probably cooler parts of the whole project, where people were coming and picking up all these bags you had all set up for them and everything. People were even showing up to see if they could just buy something right there, versus having had an account or whatever you had to have set up. But it was actually, people were, this was a front yard grocery store, you know
yeah, that's right. And not only the front yard grocery store, but also a front yard pharmacy,
yes,
because we're doing
absolutely.
herbal varieties too with intention, and some common skin ailments, some common other issues can be aided by these things. So
Yeah,
um, we're yeah, and the way that we do the sales is a membership. So yeah, we sell memberships that basically enable people to receive a bag every single week at their home. And now we're doing delivery for everyone, so that it kind of cuts down the eco cost of them coming to, because people would come to in their car, and I understand you're on your way somewhere, and that ended
yeah,
up being, we decided it'll be less community cluster if we just have our own delivery person do them all.
yeah.
And that's now at 20 members a week. The second micro farm, LaSalle, is at 7 members per week. It's a smaller version. And then this one that you'll see today is the maximum 45 members, but the wait list is already at 80. So it's just
Oh wow.
evident. We charge $57 per month for the weekly bag.
Yeah.
That's the lowest price if they buy the whole year, or it's $60 per month. But if you're using EBT or CalFresh, it's half of that, so it's only $30 per month.
Oh,
So
excellent.
yeah, yeah,
And that's
really,
awesome. You guys accommodate that as well too. That's great.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, and again, just really cool idea. Let's talk just a little bit about the idea of cycling the water. I thought that was one of the coolest things, that they're, you're growing in these bags, the water's being kind of, I think you taught water from the top, and it just kind of absorbs through, flows down into a little cistern, and then gets cycled back up. Do I got that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's the same system. We've done 3 versions ourselves that do that. And then the version today is a different gentleman who's a consultant with us who's designed this one. But our 3 versions all have the same version of the same idea, that the
Yeah.
slanted platform has a pond liner that allows soil or some combination of granite and soil to flow downward into the reservoirs. Um, so yeah, you can do that with something that looks flat on the surface, where the ground is actually slanted, or you can, and your PVC piping at the bottom starts lower, um, or you can do that where there's a big cistern or slash reservoir, and you have soil socks. That's one version, but it can all look any way that you want on the surface, including a waterfall, which is another part of the way to grow food. I have one
Yeah.
behind me. You can see
Oh, yes, that looks really awesome.
it.
So were there some things you wanted to show us around there?
Yeah, yeah. And let me know when you need like 2 more minutes. When I get to 2 minutes short.
You bet. You got as well. You got as much time as you need. I love checking out what you got there.
Oh man, you're gonna love it. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to flip around my camera. Here. All right. Okay.
There we go.
So first, I'll start in the back, And I'm going in no particular order, but I promise since I'll end up in the front, that is actually the finale. But anyway, we'll start with the modest things.
Awesome.
Okay, and where we
Looks
are, by the way,
great.
yeah, thanks. Where we are, by the way, is the headquarters for CropSwapLA. It's at 3753 Degnan, and it's where our team operates out of. It's where my family and I live. We own the house, and we're leasing part of it to my nonprofit to do this, and showing the world what's happening with workshops and all kinds of things. So let's get into the tour.
All
Go ahead
right.
and holler out if you ever need me to.
No problem.
All right, so this is one bed. Underneath it is a reservoir that's about 2 feet deep. It's got, you'll hear it, it's got a float valve, and it's constantly aerating with a second pump. The first pump, sorry, the float valve triggers whenever the water gets too low and lets the city water come back in to a certain level. And then the second pump in there pumps it upward through these pipes. I think it begins at the right there, and then inside here is how it enters the water, and then the tall pipe is where it drains back in to redrain at a certain height. So sorry, it comes in here and then it empties out there, and because that pipe is thinner, it empties out slower than it came in, and that is how it floods and drains. It's about pipe size, and
Yeah.
I tried to figure that out at the second micro farm, and I couldn't. So this design is a gentleman who was driving by Asante and saw me a couple years ago, and he said, "Hey, I'll do one for free." It was somewhere else he put this one up, and I was convinced, and we went ahead and went with his whole design. So you'll see a lot of this reflected up front.
Yeah.
Really thoughtful. So yeah, it's wood, pond liner, and then excuse me. Uh, Looks like I'm frozen. I might be frozen.
Oh, a little bit.
Okay, I'll just step back a little bit and I'll describe it from where I'm safe. Um, if you think I'm frozen, well, I'll keep talking then. Um, Basically, that liner that's frozen on the image, you pull it
Yeah.
up a little bit, and you can see that there's some granite stones underneath it. So it's only a couple inches of soil there, but that allows it to be called a terraponics system, and because it has terra with earth, and it has a hydroponics element to it with the water, because it does need to be fed nutrients, and the nutrients that are in the soil aren't enough. Um, let's see if I can change my camera. It's so strange that it's like stuck on that.
Yeah. Doesn't
Even
want to seem to come back from that image there.
right, I'll switch it to the front for a second.
So
Okay.
that's a pretty cool setup though. The water flows up into the space, floods it out, and then flows back in.
That's
Right?
correct. Yeah, and it does it on a timer so that you kind of have it happen regularly.
Okay.
Um, All right. And then that behind me is a vertical one that's along the wall. It's got 4 levels and does the same thing as it has a reservoir on the ground. It's about 2 feet deep. Um, and those are just like containers from Home Depot. And by the way, the wall is really just gutters that you
Yeah.
can buy. Yeah.
Uh, so what sort of things are you growing in those? Just
Yeah. Let's switch it around the camera and see. So I'm standing in the shade. It should be okay now.
oh, looks like the connection got lost there for his connection. We'll wait to see if he gets back on there. That's one thing that's so tough about doing outdoor interviews with our devices is they like to they always pick just the right time to start messing up and and giving us problems. So we'll see if he gets connected back on there. But yeah, definitely some really cool stuff that he's got going on there. And I really kind of like those types of systems. I'm really kind of fascinated with them. I haven't really decided to dabble into too much of the water type systems when it comes to growing. And I talked a bit about this in a recent live stream that I did with our friends Christopher Bransdall and King Star. We did a little kind of conversation live stream, and one of the things we talked about was the hydroponics and the things that they were doing. They've got a bunch of different types of setups and different things that they work on with that, and I find that stuff to be really really fascinating. And yeah, I got so many projects and so many things I'm doing myself that you know I got to get in. I got to get some projects set up and do some things with that, and so I can learn a little bit more about it firsthand. I see some of these projects people are doing, and I'm really really fascinated the way they're able to grow so well too. These water hydroponic type systems really really seem to work well when it comes to growing plants and everything. So it looks like we might have them back here. Let's see if we can't get him back on the stream with us. All right, there he is.
Hey, sorry about that. How are you all?
No problem, no problem.
Great.
Little connection issue. That's all, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna try for my phone now, and I'll do my best. I'm on a little stick, so thankfully we're in good shape.
No problem, problem.
Yes, we'll be in great shape here.
You
Um,
might just try turning it sideways, maybe.
yes, there we go. I'll boom it down here, and I'm gonna flip it around uh, so that you see the other side.
There we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
okay, that'll be better for me. All right, everyone. So thanks. I just talked you through that one. That image is a little bit better too. You'll see that it's 4 levels high, made of gutters.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that pumps up, drains down, and will keep the nutrients flowing in there. Maybe once a month, we add a mixture of the right nutrients for what we're growing. It's kind of proprietary. We have a variety, but you can kind of imagine NPK varieties, all organic. And right now, those are all lettuces. They're kind of like definitely flowering and seeding. We're going to just collect them all. I kind of wanted to keep big plants there to have imagery as visitors are coming here. I want to just have something there until we actually had an issue with the electrical in this area. So before replanting, I wanted to get that fixed. You don't want to put anything there you might lose. So we fixed that yesterday, and I'll be pulling some of these out, adding more seedlings like beans, so that they can climb up on it and look really beautiful. I have some interesting ones, um, and other lettuces and herbs, probably some chard. We also have strawberries over there right now. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah, strawberries would grow well in those.
Yeah, these are small. Now that they're getting water again, I think they'll start getting happy again.
Yeah, yeah.
Poor plants. We put them through so much, and they still give us so much.
That's so true, huh?
Okay, so then where I was standing was kind of a seating area, just DG on the ground. Not too many weeds, and then here in the dirt, some construction rocks next to kind of a workspace. That area is always going to be, raw. I have compost back there too, and just storage and kind of junk right now. But it's designed to be a workspace, seedling space. I've got some things planted. There's pomegranate, grapes, kiwi, Swiss chard. I got cantaloupe, tomatoes, callaloo. Looks like a couple of mystery things. I forgot what they were, but they're surviving. Um, yeah, that's all right there along the wall. It's verdant.
Nice.
Yeah. And then
Looks like big sunflower.
yeah, huge sunflower, man. Oh, And when I
Yeah.
replanted it here, it was sideways. You know, they can stand back up.
Yeah, that one's looking nice and healthy.
Yeah, they're so much different than other plants. Like right next to her, some baby corn, and you know, if those get bent sideways, they'll stay sideways.
Yeah.
I've got corns all around here. See if I can adjust the camera just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some
Yeah. There.
tomato-like plant. I don't know what that one's called. It gives you these like spherical black fruit. They're not super sweet, but they're nice.
Yeah.
Got some garlic in there.
Oh, yeah. There's a little garlic, huh?
Those are my wife's favorite. They're elephant garlic from New York, and she's always so happy. Then there's callaloo here. Oh yeah, there's a loquat tree right there, and that's
Yeah.
definitely a winner once she gets rolling. I love growing potatoes. Whenever it works, I'm like,
Yeah.
man, why don't I do this? Why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
Because I love French
Potatoes are one
fries.
of my favorites too.
Yeah, like French fries is like my demon, my love demon. So I see them anywhere, I go for it. But I never think to grow them. Um, and yeah, all of that whole ridge is potatoes. It's gonna be easy to pick up. And I
Yeah.
kind of made a little valley in here. It's kind of a curve. I think some water may pool in some areas, and some plants can take advantage of that. I'm just kind of making options for the plants.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
a
It's a nice
cara
little.
cara orange.
Oh, my favorite orange.
Oh yeah,
Love
yeah, you and my
love
wife too.
caracaras. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's why
I
we
wish
got
I
it.
could. I wish I could grow those here.
Yeah,
You guys are
man.
lucky to be able to grow those.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Being in LA and not taking advantage of that luck, like, man,
Yeah.
people are missing
Yeah.
out. I'm telling you, once it catches on, it's gonna be more like wildfire than wildfire.
That have so much citrus.
Yeah, and we can still grow citrus in this zone. Thankfully, we're not affected by those 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 issues. So like that makes it even more valuable.
Yeah.
More, more.
Yeah.
Like no one does
Trees
this.
are the best too, year after year.
These are 4 o'clocks, the flowers.
Oh yeah.
They'll bloom pretty soon. Uh, and then there's also milkweed. Everyone knows that monarch butterfly loves plants on them, and their kids remember the location. I think 4 generations back, so it creates a migration pattern for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, more corn and tomatoes. Lots of three sisters happening around here.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Yeah,
this
I'm trying
area.
I've
Uh
got an area of our garden we're trying that Three Sisters again too this year. I did it several times years ago, but
huh.
we're dabbling back in with it a little bit this year.
Yeah. And yeah, those the beans, squash, and
Yeah.
tomatoes.
Everything's looking nice there.
Yeah.
With some nice squash plants. Leaves are looking healthy.
Believe it or not, that whole area, well, there's a separate area back here, but this whole area right here, we're all volunteers.
Oh, can't beat that.
Yeah.
They just show up for you.
Yeah, I
No
didn't thin it out
work,
or anything.
no work. They just pop up.
It looks like it's landscaped, it's foodscaped, you know.
That's perfect, right?
It's so crazy. And if you dive in here, man, I'm gonna give you the view I can't get. Here, I'm gonna turn the camera sideways so you can get the whole view. Like if you were here, it'd be so sticky on your skin, but since you're not, the camera's gonna let you in. Ready? Three, two, one, dive in.
Yeah.
Oh, what's it look like in there?
Oh yeah, that's a wild jungle there. Look at all that stuff growing.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll show you some fruit from the other end too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've got one for you. Okay, 3, 2, 1, dive in.
Oh, thinks
You
it. I
see
think
it?
it. I think it might. Oh, look at that. There's a flower. Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
So awesome, man. I actually don't know what plant
Flowers.
that is, but it's big and beautiful and wants to give more. So I'm like, okay.
That's awesome.
Um, so then next to it is a smaller grow area. It's got a pear tree and herbs. So the herbs are really what we wanted by the kitchen because this is the house right here in the door. Um,
Yeah.
so got all kinds of herbs, all varieties. It's hard to even remember what they are. It's hard to keep anything labeled.
Yeah.
Um,
The great
I
thing
don't
with
try
herbs
very
is
hard
just get in
anymore.
there and all you gotta do is get in there and start smelling and tasting, and you can figure it right out.
Yeah, and you'll see what you want in the moment. So, most of that area is kind of understood to be like our family area. So our teammates don't generally hang out there or put anything there. Same with the shed. That's the family area. Now on this side, there's the garage and then this flat space and a waterfall. And also we have a porta potty that's going to stay there too. Um, all of that is expected to be kind of team space. The garage,
Yeah.
this area, uh, all of this team space. And so we don't have like direct separation, but it's just like whenever I'm out here, we know we can cross paths, and they honor my time and space if I'm with the family, and I honor their time and space if they're like having lunch or if they're not really working. Um,
Yeah.
that's okay. Um, so it's really cool how we operate as a team. But then also, here's the design that you're seeing. So right here on this platform, if you look in closely, it's actually a permeable stone.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, there we go. It's a permeable stone. Um, and what that means is that if you come along and you have a bucket of water, let's say imagine that this is rain and then it's raining out here and it's pouring, and what normally happens is the water rinses down the drain and off down to the street. But here, instead, it pours directly back in to an underground reservoir underground. And you can see the pump for it under here, where we have the machinery that makes it happen.
Yeah.
So basically, entire the entire platform under here is 4 feet deep and 15 feet wide each way for a square, and
Right.
enables us to capture about 5,000 gallons of rainwater.
Wow. That's great. That's just a great way to be doing that. Everything just kind of flows through there right down into a pump.
Yeah, and so our team installs these, and that's why I'm so excited to show it off. It's part of what we do as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
We're the
Most
only
of the
ones
time,
in town that kind of do that. Yeah,
so most of the time when you think of rain collection, you think of it pouring off of a roof, hooking up some pipes and, sending it off to a container that it can collect in. But this is right from the ground.
yeah. I'll explain it all how that works right here. In fact, if I open my side gate here and walk outside just here,
I think the Wi-Fi is good. If it rains, even though I have gutters, normally the rain gutters would be pointed out to the street here, down the sidewalk, and it would roll out to the sidewalk and to the driveway. And then all these
Yeah.
nasty cars would be splashing and splishing and splashing in it with their nasty wheels and all the trash. And then that rolls down the street to the ocean and pollutes the ocean. There are other consequences that happen at that point that hopefully we don't have to talk about.
Yeah.
But all of
Yeah.
that starts here, you know? And so
Yeah.
instead,
It does.
what we're doing here is we're using the gutters off of the entire garage. We tilted it downward to one corner, as well as the gutters from the entire house. All around the house, we tilted it downward back to this backyard, and we're collecting all that water in the underground tank there.
Wow.
And so if it rains, I think it was 6 minutes. The first 5 minutes, we discard that water. So yeah, the first 5 or 6 minutes, we discard that water by using
Oh,
the first filter on the water that we use. It's
yeah.
called a clean rain, and it has a device inside that triggers to discard the first 5 or 6 minutes of the water down here. I say that because it depends on how quickly this release valve swells up.
Yeah.
And when it swells up, it redirects the water to our tank. So it's like assuming the first 5 or 6 water minutes is garbage or has some kind of pollution in it, and then it directs the rest of it to our underground tanks. And then how long it takes to fill up 5,000 gallons? I think it was. Yeah, I have to look back at it. I really need to figure that out, but it's not. It's not much because
Not
we're
much.
getting such a great platform, and this entire platform absorbs it as well.
Is it
Um,
like minutes versus hours?
I think it's. I think I'm thinking about how many inches of water because there's a calculation you can do based on the surface area of your roof to estimate how much water is being collected. But I just don't know math minus the first discard. That's my question. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Is
it's
that
amazing. I'll say that during the rains that LA had gotten, we could have had two more underground tanks back here and still had more water that we didn't get to collect. So you could have gotten
wow?
like 20,000 gallons on this property if we wanted to, if we had installed more of that. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, so if people have big properties, you can really be a resource to your family in a time of crisis because this amount of water is enough for us to last 400 days in a crisis. But if you just have
Yeah.
a basic rain tank, that'll only last you 2 days. And by day three, you're panicking, you know. And then for us, we're panicking because we're the only ones with water, you know. I don't want to be
Yeah.
I don't want to be the only ones with water. So that's why our team realizes that this is a crisis management element to my upbringing that we've tapped into something that a community-wide awareness needs where people do have space. They should consider installing this, having us install this, where you can still use your space, but now you're part of a network where we'll build out a patch of these in this part of town, so that when things go bad, we'll have something to rely upon and not panic.
Right. And
Uh,
is that some? So you're talking about again just a moment ago the size of the tanks. Is that something you would expand on, or would
yeah,
you if you did it again put in more tanks now that you've
yeah, I
yeah
think so. I think I would, instead of having DG over there, I would just have more of what I have here. It just costs more. That
yeah
was a price decision, yeah, because this stone down here, it's beautiful. It's got a
yeah
shiny element to it, and especially if you see it wet. But the specific glue in order to do that is $200 per gallon, and you need a lot of them.
yeah
So it already was
wow
like, wow, we're showing off a lot. Um, but
yeah
but yeah, I think I would have a lot of underground usage. Some storage for food, some cold storage underground.
Yeah.
We're gonna add some other pieces to the garage to make it more laboratory like, but
Yeah.
yeah, there needs to be that. And so I'm gonna show you a little bit about I have 10% left on my phone, so I want to show you that this is the and I think we're doing well, but this is
Yeah.
the waterfall. It's beautiful, and this is how we aerate the water and keep it healthy. We have about 7 waterfalls on here. It's lined on the bottom with pond liner, and then stones on top with irrigation pumping it up and letting it drain. There's little places in between where we have space for food. And that's why it's a little walkway too to walk up and play. But that's why it's so special, because not only does it have a serenity to it, but it connects you back to nature in its
Yeah.
natural elements. Yeah, I really love spending time out here. Grow all kinds of things from fava beans. A lot of things are going to seed here. We're just kind of letting it be itself this time around.
Yeah. See what pops up later, right?
Yeah.
But no,
So
that's really awesome. I love water features. I have several around my property as well too. Simple, smaller ones,
yeah,
but I'd love to have something that's larger and a little more elaborate like that. It's really, really, really something special there.
thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
In a great
yeah,
way, like you said, great water usage. I just love the idea of the patio being the, you know, uh, rain collection system itself. That's just really awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Now I'll walk you through to the front yard where we have our
Oh
micro
yeah.
farm.
Now
That's
there now we're getting to the goods. Oh boy, here we go.
right.
You were
Yeah,
saving the best for last, Jemiah.
I was. I told you. That's why when I saw my battery, I was like, oh, I want to get to this. So we have water recycling everywhere, where there are in-ground tanks that
Yeah.
pump up and drain straight back down. Um, that applies to the trees here, I'll show you, as well as the beds that I'll show you, as well
Yeah.
as sides that I'll show you. So basically, um, they dug in and made concrete bases and then lined those with pond liner, and then have an aerating pump to continually flow it. We add nutrients to it so that it's healthy and nutrient dense, and then we can control the flow for each of the grow spaces, depending on the volume of the plant and what's needed at the time. So as
Yeah.
these plants get bigger, they'll need more or less water, more or less nutrients. Also, depending on what they are, like these are blueberries, they're typically more acidic preferring, and so we'll make that water more acidic and pair them up with plants that are also like them. That's a passion fruit, guava. We have 2 blueberries because you need them to cross pollinate. And then over here, this connects to a guava plant. Isn't it amazing?
Oh
And
yeah.
they flood and drain twice a day. Basically, underneath here is the mesh, the soil on top where we have our you know earthworms and things like that. But
Yeah.
then underneath here is the water with uh, uh, granite stone, and eventually,
Okay. I
oh, and in
see.
fact,
Yeah.
it's flooding right now. Look, watch it. It's flooding right now. You might be able to see. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we just caught it as it's doing its thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then here is our trellis area. There are 8-foot tall trellises that are designed to have this netting here, where we'll be stringing up everyone here to give us more. I think that's cucumbers
Yeah.
and tomatoes right there. Um,
Really
we
taking
have,
advantage of your vertical space.
yeah, vertical space usage.
And I
creates
like how
more
you got
shade.
everything tightly packed in there too. You're really being economical with the space for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to sit in there. And then along the edge, we have a different kind of wood, so it's kind of like beautiful from the outside.
Yeah.
This is all for the herbs. So we have sages, thymes, dills. Over there, we'll have basils. There are, yeah, these are all the herbs. And it's mulched nicely with a small mini mulch. The mini
Yeah.
mulch is easier to roll on than the bigger pieces. The bigger pieces, we want our teams to be able to move around when they're harvesting and not be carrying too much.
Yeah, and they're all doing the same type of system where they're getting flooded and drained
Yeah,
a couple times a day.
that's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. Let me show you that. Just underneath here, these are designed with platforms that slide. So if I pull it my way,
It
it
should.
takes some work. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they have the same system with a flood drain, and it looks like it's filling itself up. Um, oh, it looks like it must have already pumped itself up. So yeah, that was the
Nice.
tricky part. Like, how do you control the float so that when you irrigate, it doesn't refill from the city water, thinking it's empty. And we had to control that by doing a reverse flow, which
Oh right.
only triggers when you really need it to. Um, so then the walkway here's nice. We're gonna put more mulch to make it flat. We've got trellis up here on the top for what'll be passion fruit. Um, yeah, passion fruit growing along all of that. We chose
Oh,
passion fruit
that looks
because
nice up there.
yeah, it's an evergreen. So it'll be here with the greenery throughout the year and
Yeah.
continually provide, normalcy to whatever the view is, the look of it is, the shade it
Yeah.
offers, and things like that. I'd consider grapes, but grapes are not evergreens, and so they fall
Yeah.
off half the year. Yeah, and be useless and looking
They look
weird.
nice. Passion
Yeah.
fruit flowers are so awesome looking too. And from what I've seen with other plants, it shouldn't take too long at all to fill out all that space. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's look at those flowers. Those are just intricate and really
So
amazing looking.
key lime tea. What's that?
I was just talking about those passion fruit flowers. They're just really awesome.
Yeah, they so are. Um, all
Probably
right,
one
so
of my
there's the front
favorite
part.
flowers.
Yeah, they're lovely. They're so exotic. Like, they're so
Yeah.
foreign looking. I guess um, I want to say alien looking.
Yeah, exactly.
Very-
Very unique.
and then so here's the control on the wall for all the irrigation timing. And then on this side, here are the other plants on the other side of our walkway.
Oh yeah.
Kind of looking at it from a side view right now, but I'll go to the sidewalk. We have right next to me are some spherical shaped squash. Here, there's a better view.
Oh yeah.
We've also got yellow squash.
Oh
Those are really
awesome.
pretty. Yeah.
Some patty
And
pan
then
or
right
some
next to them is the strawberries. Um, Strawberries were really tasty. They love the flood drain system. In fact, they're coming back after re-nutrients recently.
oh
It's
yeah.
amazing, yeah, what you can do because you're using hydroponics principles while also using soil and then using natural sunlight. So it takes the advantages of all of those and doesn't leave anything out. These are sweet potatoes. You see it flooded here, so it's watered recently. It'll be draining as it does. These are beets, which is our prize so far. Looking great. Hey, how you
Look at
doing?
all them
Thanks,
green.
man. You want to try a little beet leaf on your wall? Okay, good deal, man. Have a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah, those look
Yeah. So yeah, these are beet
a great
leaves, and
attraction in the neighborhood.
yeah, I mean, it really. When I did our first micro farm, I,
Oh,
and they deserve to be, you know, respected because they're doing something different than the others. And so, yeah, it's good to see that recognition. It's also more important that others will follow the example, showing how easy it is.
yeah,
Sometimes feel like they're not useful, and you got space, you got a little space.
yeah.
Of course, partner with us. Yeah.
When you really think
Oh, this is
about it, when
nice.
you're looking around there, you can tell that it's not too big of a space than what a normal person would have at their house, and to be able to turn a yard into something that's productive like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just really amazing. If that was repeated more often in neighborhoods, there'd be again a front yard grocery store all over the place, providing good
Um,
local food,
and
things
hopefully,
that
yeah,
we
I
have.
went off of Wi-Fi, so I'm still here.
That's all right.
Yeah. So yeah, these are carrots here, doing really bushy. They're actually past due. We realized. Yeah. And then these are new carrots. So this is an example of what 4 weeks can mean. These are new carrots, 5 weeks. So
Yeah.
really quick turnaround. Here along the edge, and actually, I didn't point out, but along the edge over here, all of those are also herbs. Along this edge are herbs. We have forage, things like other sages, beautiful plants. Some of them, they're only prickly when you make them mad. My wife,
Oh.
they're not. They're only prickly when you make them mad. But anyway, we have some wildflowers here that'll just be blossoming each year. We don't have to really do anything about. Um, and then here we have our vertical section. We have space for 1,400 lettuces and lettuce heads, and each of these pumps and drains from a reservoir that's underneath the ground. Also, it's 8 feet tall, so you'll get a view again that I don't get.
Oh wow!
We have
Look at
ladders.
that.
Yeah, yeah, we have ladders and things like that. Safe ladders.
That's just man. That's amazing. Love it.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
What a great
Yeah,
way of using the space. It's all vertical.
yeah, and big.
Oh, freezing up there again. But that's just
Pump
those
drain
just
down.
really cool.
Yeah, some of it. Once these plants get bigger, you'll see a little less of the white, but it's not bad in terms of visibles. I thought it'd be worse. As we were getting
Yeah,
it going, I was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of stuff in my yard. But um, turns out to be, here's another view. Turns out to be, not bad. Once it's growing in, you hear the water,
yeah,
sensible. It's like, what are we going to use the space for anyway? And now it makes everyone else feel silly. So yeah, hopefully they follow our example. That's really the goal, that folks see what's
yeah. I mean,
possible and then inspire them.
it's one thing to have like you have the ones that are out there towards the front, but when you're looking at these ones that are really utilizing that vertical space, I mean, you're really getting some good use. I mean, just one of those would be rows spread out in that space, and then you've got so what, basically 3, 4 times the amount that you could grow in that space growing there. because you're
Yeah,
utilizing the vertical space.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
That's
also have uh, fruit trees along the house. If I come along this side, so these are
right
also.
on.
We're gonna put containers around the bottom, like a wooden wrap. It's gonna look nice. Um, but yeah, that's pomegranate, uh, guava. I think this is a apricot, maybe another pear, maybe, and then a blackberry. Some are looking good, some of them are not. Actually, all of them are looking better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a really great. I love being out here at night. I love being out here during the day. People are so
Oh,
curious. Um,
yeah. Yeah. Such a public facing project, that like you just had
yeah,
people by getting to share in the idea and the project itself. But again, imagine like every block having one or two of these on them, throughout a city. You know,
yeah,
it's just
bro. I'm getting invitations just like that, and that's showing how important this is. And so I'm so happy to entertain them because leaders have an option: do this or don't do this.
yeah,
And awareness and record,
just really great. Um,
the opportunity that they take or not.
yeah,
So yeah, please take the opportunity and contact us if you want to like consult about projects. But our team is very busy in LA. We've had a lot of interest, which is thrilling, but it's also kind of shocking, um, given how obvious it is to me. But that's
yeah,
why I'm a leader and a guider, just to guide the energies where people want to take them, because it's different to every person. They may have a different reason for loving the
oh,
seed in them, and we can take that seed and guide others toward the same direction. That's my hope.
all right. Yes, that's just really awesome. Thank you for that tour. Thanks
You're
for
so
showing us
welcome.
being there to show us that, because that's just a really great added treat to the whole interview there. Wasn't expecting to get to see that project like that. I mean, again, just imagine what it'd be like if the, cities and places, and especially neighborhoods like you're focusing on, had those available on each block,
Yeah.
um, and obviously, as you can tell right there visually, you can see, look how green some of those things are, those beets and those carrots and those things are just growing amazingly, in this space, the amount of food and the production you can do. And just really, again, providing something that's really special for your neighborhood, not just in the value of the food that you're getting from it, but being inspiring to people that you can do more with things than what you would normally think, and really provide a value to those around you as well.
Awesome. I'm so grateful to have had a chance to be with you today.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
yes.
really I'm really happy that you took the time to, again, give us this really awesome tour. Really great that you saved the best for last. But I love what you had there in the back area, the water collection system, all of that is really great. But
Yeah.
coming through that gate and showing us what you got going on in your front yard,
Yeah.
which is really excellent. And yeah, so again, thanks for taking the time for joining us here on the Let's Get Growing show. Jamiah, it's been a pleasure every time I got to meet you the last time and this time. And hopefully here in the next couple of months, I'll be heading down to Los Angeles. I'll have to come down there and check it out in person.
I love
And
that. Yeah, you'll love it. I'd love to show you around.
absolutely, we'll have to do a little more in-depth look at the things going on there in those spaces. But anything else you want to leave us with? Any sort of future projects or any sort of thing like that? You want anybody to catch up, tell people where people can catch up with you?
Well, if you're in LA and you want to get involved, you should join one of our workshops. That'd be really great. You could volunteer with us too, but we're also raising money. So if you have introductions to someone who could help us get to our $80 million endowment goal, we want to make sure that this kind of work is perpetuated. That's the idea. So I love an introduction. I'll take them to dinner and speak about it, but really meaningful introductions. That's kind of how I'm operating with our fundraising on relationships. So just want to put that out there. And otherwise, thank you for considering, supporting us in all kinds of ways. The spirit is there. If you love what we do, it's obviously that's what we care about. So thank you for support.
Absolutely. And I do have a link down below in the description to CropSwapLA, believe.org, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I've got 1% left.
Well, 1% left. We're just about out. So yeah, check out the link down below, CropSwapLA.org, and there's also a link to our video where we show the Asante micro farm and another sort of water recycling system that he has there. Some really awesome guard engineering going on there at CropSwapLA. And Jamiah, again, thank you so much for joining with us. We're going to let you go now. And hopefully, again, we'll see you real soon, either here on the show or again in person. We'll go down there and make a video with you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you again for having me. You guys take care.
Yes, awesome. Thanks again, Jamiah. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
So, all right, there we go. Another great interview with Jamiah Hargins of CropSwapLA. Just a really awesome organization. I love all of the things that they got going on and growing on and the different projects that they have there. Again, I really encourage you to check out the links down below so you can learn a little bit more about CropSwapLA and their organization, what they're doing. I think those sort of projects could be emulated all across the country and all across the world, even in urban cities, where I think learning how to take some of these concepts and some of the science and things behind these in order to provide more nutrient dense locally grown food, in some of these places where it's really necessary. And again, that's kind of the idea here. I got a channel called The Urban Gardener where we're learning all about growing food in small spaces. And, a lot of those are city spaces. And there's so much that we can do and so much we can learn from organizations like Jamiah's in optimizing the types of spaces we have and also providing something that's a larger project for your neighborhood and being able to, again, provide some food that isn't, grown locally. A lot of that stuff is shipped in, if it's shipped in at all, and you're growing that right out of a front yard. Just an amazing project. So awesome that he took us on that tour to check out what they got growing on. I wasn't expecting that, actually. I hadn't seen that project. I'd been down there in Los Angeles to see the Asante microfarm that we touched on and talked about just a little bit there. And again, it works with a similar type of system of collecting all of the water that's brought in on the top, drains down into these containers, and then also has nutrients added to it and are brought back in and just kind of cycle around and collect the rainwater and those sort of things. And I just think it's just really ingenious, and also what they grow on there really looks awesome. I was really surprised when I saw the one in person, the Asante microfarm, just how great all of the plants looked, how vibrant and just really delicious that a lot of the food that was being grown in those spaces looked. And you saw right there in that video and that little tour that he shared with us just how awesome those things look right there too. So you can see things grow really well in those sort of systems. And the vertical towers, how they're taken up and utilizing that space, I mean, they're literally, looks like they're growing 4 or 5 times the amount of things that they could grow if they were just growing in rows down on the ground by growing in these vertical towers. And just really, again, so fascinated with the idea of utilizing that water cycling system, and something that I definitely want to be able to get in and try myself. But really awesome project there. And again, one more last time, check out the links down below and see what's going on there with CropSwapLA. And again, too, want to thank Ivy Organics for being our sponsor of the show. And be sure to go check out their website and help support our show by supporting our sponsor Ivy Organics and use the promo code GROW10 GROW10 in their store for some of their great products, the 3-in-1 Plant Guard and their fertilizers that they have too, that again I'm using in our gardens right now, and I think they're just really, really great. And I hope you all have really enjoyed our show today and our interview with Jamiah Hargins. And be sure to give the video a big thumbs up for Jamiah, and hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And also, one of the most important things that you can do for us and our show here, and help us building our audience and making sure that all of you passionate gardeners out there know that we have great place for us all to get together and talk about our love of gardening right here on the Let's Get Growing show, and meet and get to know some really awesome gardeners out there through all of our really cool guests that we have on our show. We've had some really great guests like Jamiah today. We talked to Gary Pilarchik the other week, plus last week. I couldn't believe it that I actually got to talk and have a discussion with Cisco Morris, one of my favorite garden personalities out there. He's just so fun. He's got so many awesome stories to share. I could have talked with him all day long. So be sure to go and check out some of those past shows that we have, and check out some of those interviews. And also, if you are just puttering around the garden, doing some things around the garden, and you like to listen to either podcasts or different things while you're doing that, go and check out any of your podcast providers out there and look for our Let's Get Growing show there. And you can listen to the audio version of our show as we upload those after our show has aired. And then you can listen to all these great interviews while you're doing things in the garden. So be sure to check out Let's Get Growing on the podcast as well too, and you can find links and different things and all about the show and upcoming shows at letsgetgrowing.live. And yeah, next week too on our show we are going to be having some guests that we had to do pre-recorded because these guests were all the way from Australia. So there's no way we're really going to be able to. I think it's like 2-3 a.m. in the morning or something like that, where they're at when we're doing the show live. So we definitely had to pre-record a couple of interviews. We've got with us Charlie McGee this next week as our featured guest. He is the leader of the band called Formidable Vegetable, and they make these really fun songs about gardening and permaculture and all of that. So we have this really great interview with Charlie talking all about how he utilizes music to inspire people to get into the garden and grow some of their own food and all of that, as well as we have with us for our channel of the week next week will be Marty's Garden Marty is someone I've been following for many, many years, and he grows a really great garden and has a really fun channel out of Australia as well too. So we'll be talking with him about the different things going on with him and his channel, and again, just having some more wonderful conversations. We've got some other great guests coming up in the weeks ahead. So again, be sure to keep joining with us here each and every week, and join in with all of our fun gardening conversation. And so, from all of us here at Let's Get Growing, hope that you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Saturday.